Asked. Oh, your hangout on air, yes.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of My Best Friends in the World. Linda Mako, how are you doing?
Hello, Tyrone. It's so nice to see you. It's so nice to see you, Ben. I'm doing great. I have perch on my kitchen cabinets today, as one would in Finland. It's the most ubiquitous fish in the Baltic Sea.
Very nice. I really dig
it. Already begins.
And Ben Diesel, the man. I'd never considered that Africa could get as cold. All I know about Africa is the Lion King and green tea leaves for the most part. But it gets like really, really cold over there too, even during the winter. And it's winter right now, even though it's summer.
Super cold. It was weird today. For the very first time, I saw a photo of a lion in snow, which was just like, what the hell is happening? So yeah. But here, I think I've seen snow once in my life in Pretoria, so it doesn't get that bad.
Okay, winter is coming for us all, it sounds like. And I'm Ty. We all round out league, and we're all doing pretty good. How about we go into a little nice brief rapport building session that I like to call Belinda's and Ty's Excellent Weekend. I think you've gotten much better at that. Linda, how was your excellent weekend?
My excellent weekend was really nice. Relaxing. I was hanging out with my husband for the most part, and so we were really relaxing, walking outside for walks and watching movies. And the highlight was the Nachos.
Nachos? What are these things?
Yes, Nachos is my invention. It is a cross between tacos and nachos. At least I think it's my invention.
No, that sounds cool. What do they look like? Do you have pictures that we can make? And have you patented this already? I'm taking notes right now. Where's my note taking?
I don't have pictures right here available. There's an echo somewhere. Is that me? No?
So you're saying it's a perfect blend between nachos and tacos, or does it lean more to one side than the other?
It's a perfect blend, because or maybe it leans a little bit more to nachos. It depends on how you look at it, because them up with thickly layered.
Okay.
You get a perfect bite, and it's like a huge nacho. But it's no longer a taco because it's not folded.
Linda sent me a picture of this, and I told her she is going to offend your sensitive American sensibilities, Ty, because there was no cheese on those nachos.
There was no cheese?
There was no cheese.
There's nacho cheese, right?
There is, and there is nacho cheese in Finland, and I have made nachos with nacho cheese, or the cheese sauce, which isn't cheese, by the way. But whatever. But these were just with like sour cream to nachos. Sometimes I like the lighter variety.
Very interesting.
It looked very good.
I do believe that Mexican food, or at least Subway sandwiches, are the perfect food, in that all you have to do is keep your mouth open, and it's already cylindrically, positioned to just be stuffed into your mouth. All you got to do is push and chew. Push and chew, baby. Ben, how was your excellent?
Too.
It was so good. Went out to do some SE Saturday morning. It was still nice and warm. It's school holidays now, but luckily I got a couple of students who were still doing supplementary exams. I felt so sorry for them, but we had a bunch of good talks, and it was just so good. I kept stuck around for like 3 hours and was about to pack up, and one guy came past and I said, okay, cool, this is going to be my last talk for the day. And it ended up lasting 2 hours. My bat died. It was just, and it was very cool. Very, very nice guy. Name was Prince. Yeah. And at the end, I had to tell him, listen, let me go buy you lunch and go drop you off at home just so that we could get out of this. But yeah, it was very cool. And a bunch of very nice talks that I hope to release soon.
Did you go from a complete stranger to a friend that you're now going out to eat lunch with? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but I was hungry, so I said, dude, let's go grab some lunch. and he was
Very,
heading
very cool.
to his sister's place, and she actually lives close where I live, so I said, let me give you a lift. So it was very nice. I had a good talk.
Very, very cool. That sounds like an excellent weekend. My weekend wasn't that bad. I actually had a good time. My issue was I couldn't go do SC because it was raining outside. We have like a bunch of thunderstorms that are coming. We have a saying called April, June showers, and we're getting all of those now. The half marathon. I'm doing I'm doing a 5K about every day that I'm gone or out of work, and I started doing 5Ks after work too. Taking it really, really easy and trying not to break anything. And I think I made a mistake. Here's the story. I ran out of gym clothes to wear, so I just started wearing like white t-shirts and going out running. That's a bad idea for when it rains, because then my white t-shirt got completely soaked, and anyone who's gone to like a swimming pool in a white t-shirt knows what happens. You begin to see everything. So I'm like I'm about 2 miles away from my house when it starts coming down, and I'm sprinting to get back home. Like, I don't want to deal with this. So finally it starts hitting, and I'm like, there's no shelter. I might as well just start walking, because I don't want to slip or anything like that. So I'm just walking, and my shirt is just a complete, one-to-one of like what's underneath it. And in my head, it looks a lot better if I wasn't wearing the white shirt, but I don't want to. It's a terrible fiasco of like chest hair and holes where my belly button's supposed to be. And it's just not good for anybody. But I got home and I did my pacings. I hit the pavement, and I told my friend about it, who's like really good into like triathlons and stuff. And he started giving me his shirts for when he goes out running, because he already got plenty of them. And he started giving me his shirts now. So I thought that's a really good motivator. Thank you very much, friend at work who did that for me. And that was an excellent weekend.
Oh, okay, cool, great. I'm inspired to run now.
We're about to go into my favorite section. You guys know what my favorite section is?
I know what your favorite section is.
The love.
My favorite section is, where is the love?
The love.
And this week, I will be reading the comments, the love that people have sent us after last episode 4. This is episode 5. We got some great comments. The first comment was from ngut40. Says, great to see you again. Linda, I was waiting for you to jump up and put a chicken casserole into the oven, or perch on your chair and peck at your microphone. They would never have picked up on it. Missed opportunities. So true.
And he's calling you out from the last event, in case anyone didn't miss the last episode. Our secret word, or our bit for that day, was naming birds and sneaking into the competition. And for the first time in the league history, I feel like Linda got caught with her eyes open. She was just like, I think you got really invested in the first part, and then just, oh, we're playing a game?
Being closed.
You gave Ben and me the opportunity to catch up to you, and now we're on an even playing field. We'll get into it though.
Yeah, I had to give you that one. Eric Sulk, I think it is said or pronounced, I hope, says, my favorite trio again together. Good episode. Aww, thank you so much, Eric.
Nice.
Thanks, Eric.
And, I have felt a lot of love from Eric on Twitter too, so thank you for that. Yeah. I really appreciate
the love.
Count Money says, great talk, guys. Thanks, you, Count Money. And Sambia Man says, again, a great video. What do you think about using a ring light, natural versus polished lighting? And I have to say, I don't know what a ring light is. Do you guys know?
So if you're doing recordings outside or indoors, much more better indoors, you want to make sure you have good video quality, and that relates to how you light up the environment. And so if you invested in good lighting, instead of like having a harsh light on one side of your face and then like nothing but kind of shadows on the other side, you can actually do fill lighting that more evenly lights up your entire body or face. And it just makes the video a bit more appealing, makes the people pop a little bit more than what makes them pop from the background just a little bit more. And so if that's something that's really cool, that's like, sounds like a legit option. And what's great is there's actually cheap means of getting ring lights if you want them from Amazon, or you could even get like portable lights that you could just strategically place around your room or at an interview table and actually have the same effect. So yeah, that's actually a really good suggestion. Thank you.
Right. Is a ring light something that the interviewee sees? Like, is it a light outside of the camera situation? Or
so you could have something what's called a fill light behind the person, but typically you can see it. The people who are at the table can see it, but the audience can't. Which is kind of cool.
Because I was just thinking if it's like cameras, light, action.
Yeah.
So tell me about your deeply held beliefs.
Welcome to my kitchen. Anyway.
Maybe there's a reason we're using really small cameras. Was what I was thinking.
All right, Linda.
But we really appreciate the love, and that ain't no lie. Bye, bye, bye.
Bye, bye. All right, so let's get into the bit before we get into the top of the show. The show's topic is going to be, what's the name of the title again? I loved it. Linda?
It is, Holy Doubt, I'm Out.
Which is basically a reference to what happens when people find out that you're an atheist and you need to like be able to express it to them, or basically our personal deconversion stories of how we came out of religion and found something that was a bit more reliable to invest our time in. We'll get into that, but first, let's get into our bit. The bit of the show is basically a game that we play. It works by what we'll do is we will sneak in a word that's based on a subject, and the subject is chosen at the beginning of the show. And and every single time you sneak in a word about that subject, you get a point. But you can also call out other people's sneaks and get their point too. And so it's like a fun little thing. The subject of today is clothes. Clothes. Yeah. So sneak in different articles of clothing, types of clothes, things like that into the conversation. Be on the lookout for it. Exercise those careful listening skills. And go for it.
Can it be clothing related words like Prada, Chanel?
Yes, it can be. I'm going to throw that out there as well. Yes, absolutely. And I will say this as well. We have a new little thing that we've been doing since the last episode called the stinker card, which is whoever got third place last episode got third place. Oh, someone got third place. Who could that have been?
It was me.
Oh, Linda.
Thank you for the points. But she'll have a stinker card. She'll write down a word on her stinker card, and she'll the audience in just a second. But if either Ben or I call out the word that's on her stinker card, she steals points from us. 2 points from us. It's a good way to get up. Plus, if she throws in her word, she gets 2 points. So she could steal 2. She could steal 2 points or get 2 points based on how she uses the card.
Okay, could you guys look away and explain that one more time as I show this? And I'll ask a question. So look away.
We're looking away.
So
down. Are we good?
Amount.
If you call them out, you not only get 2 points, but that person loses 2 points. You stole their points.
So I just call them out. I don't have to say it again or something like that.
No, but if you first use your stinker card to say, hey, I wrote down this word and I snuck it into the conversation, you get 2 points. And everybody else gets to keep their points too.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We'll
there any way I can do both?
No, one at a time, you stinker. So that's the show. Let's do a quick review of the score so far.
Yeah.
No. That's great. Very casual. And then we have Happy Humans, my team, the best at 1 point. Woohoo! So we're all top on the board. This is going to be a great match. And let's just do the honors for ourselves. The final thing that we have to do is just lock it in.
Apologists should give to the people they talk to. Because not everybody does this, but a lot of us go out and we talk to complete strangers about deeply held beliefs. So when you do that and you do maybe make somebody think about their belief, maybe is everything okay? There's something just... We lost a fish, Linda.
Oh no! So to the podcast audience, there's a bunch of fish that have been like...
Okay, we're good. So yeah, I personally feel a very strong responsibility to kind of give people support if they do decide to abandon their beliefs, if they do decide to maybe become an atheist, for example. So Ty came up with this very cool idea that we should talk about ourselves coming out as atheists. And I really like it because I think it's such a positive thing to share with people, just to make people understand, you're not alone. It might be a terrible experience, might not be a terrible experience, but we decided to share our stories. So to kick us off today, Ty, will you do us the honor?
Sure. Mine's really, really quick. I gradually transitioned out of my faith. I was a Christian all the way up until like my first year of graduate school. So already getting my first degree in science, I still had a very strong cognitive dissonance. In my mind, it was just God was why, whereas science was the how. And so they never really interfered with each other. I was able to appreciate both individually. But as my idea of how things like morality worked, like it wasn't just a list of rules that you have to follow, it was actually like a system that was like constantly self-improving based on like social contracts that we agreed on, and you didn't need to have a god interfering with that whatsoever. It could just be, hey, we both value being alive and not dead, right? Let's make a law that says we shouldn't murder people, right? Can we agree on that? Yeah, you don't need a holy book to tell you that. You could just figure that out through secular means. And while I was dealing with that, I was also getting better explanations for the things that I believed in. I was meeting new people. And so like the caricatures of people who didn't have faith or had different faiths than me were no longer just parodies of people, but actual people that I knew. And I realized, whoa, this person's great. They're Muslim. Are you telling me they're going to hell because they don't believe the same way that I do? That doesn't seem like that's fair. That seems like it's wrong. We should probably adjust that. But the Holy Book says that that's not allowed. And so again, just constantly being assaulted with better ideas and explanations for things, not just answers, but actual explanations that I could work with and tangibly dissect, started to make me feel like I was getting more reliable information through secular activities than I was through my religious ones. And so I went through a phase where I said, I'm irreligious, or I'm not associated with any denomination. And then after that, I finally just started seeing more things that I was allowing through my filter because I no longer was keeping everyone back by who wasn't Christian. And I started watching more of the Atheist Experience. I think that was like the biggest one. I started learning more about counter apologetics. I saw the Bill Nye Ken Ham debate, and I realized what I thought an atheist wasn't what I thought it was. And now I realized, oh, an atheist is just someone who is lacking belief in a God. I think that best describes where I'm at. I need to get comfortable with the A word. And I think I need to let other people kind of understand what I mean when I say the A word. That way I could be to them what that Muslim friend was to me, a person who's representing a personality or a trope that is poorly understood in society. But I understand why I'm an atheist. I understand how I got here, and I think I can express that well enough in a really conversational tone. And I think Street Epistemology was the last stone in the wall that I needed, or at least the most keystone that I needed, where I just now have a very efficient way to communicate with people about difference in beliefs without letting anyone get defensive or argumentative. So that whole transition took about 6 years for me. And to be honest with you, I'm still transitioning even up to now. I'm still getting used to the concept. But that was more or less it. And as far as me coming out, I was doing research in Sweden at the time. My mom recently fell out of Christianity and became a Jehovah's Witness. And so, funny story. So like we moved around a lot. And the only reason why we went to church is so we could have people to help us move to the next place that we needed to move. So we would go to a church where we go and like, hey, my mom would say her name. She would say me. We would introduce ourselves. And then eventually when we were ready to move, they pack all our boxes and be like, you'll see us next Sunday, right? It's like, she'd say like, yep. And she'd just drive and we'd never see him again. Like that was most of our relationships with the church for the most part. But we did genuinely believe. And at the end, when she fell out of Christianity, became a Jehovah's Witness, it gave me the opportunity to say, hey, I'm also out of Christianity as well, but I'm not going to join in on the Christianity thing. I'm an atheist now. And she was like, yeah, okay, I still love you. Like it was a phone call. It was a brief phone call. And it was a really, really easy discussion. There's still times where she tries to get me to Jehovah's Witnesses, but for the most part, she's not. For the most part, she doesn't push it very hard, and she respects my decision and even watches my SC videos. She's one of my subscribers. That's it for me.
That's very cool.
Really cool.
Something that I've always wondered about, and I don't know if you've had the same experience. You're in science, right? In the science field. You don't really, a lot of people have this assumption that people who are in science or in technical fields are very critical thinkers and are probably mostly atheists. But me coming from an engineering background, I mean, that hasn't been the case at all.
No, it absolutely isn't. You also get a lot of different cultures in science as well. So it's not just one mindset. You just have people from around the world who studied one thing really, really well and are hired by companies to come together and work on that one thing that they're all good at. But there are still people and there's no good substitute for critical thought. A lot of people think that there is, but really, if you don't have critical thought, you're leaving yourself susceptible to being erroneous or using fallacious ideas to support really important claims that you hold to be true. And so a lot of people will come into the field, or I've worked with people, maybe not necessarily at the job that I'm at now, who believed in Krishna, who believed in Shiva, who believed in alternative dimensions, who believed in spirit animals, who were witches. I've talked with a guy from Iran who is also an atheist. So like you get that kind of contrast as well. It's like, oh, you're from this place. I thought you'd think like this. It's like, no, I don't believe in that. I have good critical thinking skills. So like, as I said, it's so easy to pigeonhole people into certain perspectives, but really everyone's different. And the main difference is whether they have that critical thinking capability or not.
Mm.
What I find is really curious, as well, I remember watching a thing about the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider in CERN, and somebody saying that there were over 20 nationalities working together. And I found it so interesting that people can agree on that, on the science. It's the same results, the same language, and everything kind of fits. But then we get utterly different results when it comes to the God idea.
Yeah. That's just really, people can wear a bunch of different hats. They can just compartmentalize and...
Oh, whoa!
Most people in Finland, I guess, are still today Lutheran Christian people. It's kind of people are in the church. I think a lot. We hear it a lot. It's in a lot of conversation that it's due to tradition and stuff. But for me,
what were the labels that you? I'm sorry. What were the labels that you used? Did you say Christian Lutheran?
Yeah, it's like the Lutheran Church of Finland.
It's basically
Christian.
Protestantism.
Oh,
right.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Good to know. We didn't speak that much about religion at home. My parents would never involve God in any kind of like explanation for existence, or like anything. We've had a house with encyclopedias and science and asking good questions and researching stuff is kind of how I remember it. Still, I always found it really strange that this thing was looming, and I had friends at school that had ideas about God, and I found it really, really confusing for the longest time, and kind of like was, well, maybe I'm not equipped, maybe not. I'm not smart enough to understand all the things about God. Whatever that may be. I remember then getting a bit older and trying to find like, well, what is this God? What's the definition? And then being surprised that there were like lots of different definitions, and I didn't really think that the definitions were that good, and I couldn't understand how people thought that they were very clear. So I didn't really know what it was that people were saying that they believe in to begin with. Was something I struggled with a lot. Then, of course, when you're 15 years old, because I was baptized, I was a member of the church as a kid, purely for this tradition thing. You go to confirmation, and it's like this 1 week long camp thing, and it's a great event, and all your friends go, and it's like the first time you're like 15 years old and you're away from home, and everybody goes on at these camps, and it's like the best time of your life. You're supposed to sneak out at night, you're supposed to do bad stuff and like have discos and stuff together, boys and girls, away from home. So I was like, and I didn't want to give that up. So I decided to go on and you can go on the camp without confirming yourself, because the idea is that you're supposed to have like Bible studies during the day, and then you can make up your mind and then confirm yourself after that week. Well, I went on the whole experience and had a great time, and snuck out at night and went and had bonfires by the lake and all that good stuff. Also, I paid a lot of attention during the Bible studies and asked a lot of questions, and I think I was a genuine like pain in the ass to the priest that was there. But he also kind of like, I don't know, I think he kind of liked it. So, like the questions and all that, like he was a funny kind of priest. He wasn't like
I think
upset.
he was just sick of those glazed over little eyes staring back at him.
And I'm like, well, tell me more about this. Like, I'm not getting it. And at the end of it, I wasn't convinced. And I even told the priest there that I don't think this makes sense at all, like, to me. And his explanations weren't good to me. Then, of course, came the time to do the confirmation thing. And there I remember I told my parents that I don't believe in this. Like, after this week, I really, really think that they're like, it just doesn't make sense to me whatsoever. And so my parents were like, well, do you want to confirm yourself or don't you? And and there's like this big party thing. And so
there's like a bunch of regalia, there's like party, it's like your events, right?
Yeah, and it's like the biggest event for like a 14, 15-year-old. It's like all the relatives come, you get big presents, you get lots of money. It's the first time you get like money as a present kind of thing.
Can you explain just the confirmation? What does that mean exactly?
Well, you have to put on like this. You go to a church, you put on a white thing.
I'm calling a white dress.
Oh man, I wasn't even, yeah. And then you're supposed to say, oh, and during the camp, you learn these verses by heart, or these prayers. One of the prayers is that I believe in God, Father. I don't know how it is in English. There is an English version of it, for sure. Like that I believe in God and the Father and the Son, this bread and daily bread stuff. And you're supposed to learn those by heart, and then you're supposed to recite these during the confirmation, and kind of like you have your first, what's it called with the bread and the wine?
Eucharist.
Communion? What?
Communion? Yeah.
Communion. Did you say Eucharist?
Yeah, I think that's a like proper name that the Catholics give it.
Okay. I'm learning.
This is sounding mighty Catholic now. I've never reflected on these traditions that they seem so like everyday here.
Could you stress again how your parents reacted to you saying that you didn't want to be confirmed, or?
No, I just said that I didn't believe, you see, because I wanted to get confirmed because I wanted to have the party and get the, I'm a 14, 15-year-old girl. So I just told them that I don't believe, and I was kind of like asking them, is it okay that I confirm myself if I don't believe? That was basically how I remember it.
and did they let you skirt past that?
They said if you want to...
You can't do skirt twice. You can't do skirt twice. Did we get you on skirt? No, we didn't. I get that point. Keep going.
Do I get anything for this skirt then?
No.
Oh, didn't call it.
Stinker. No, you stinker. All right, so you get 2 points from me.
Because in Finland, if you to like, what's it called? Resign yourself from the church, like not be a member of the church and you're underage, you have to have your parents' permission for it. And my parents said that if you do want to do that now, we will give the permission for it. You can do it.
Oh, wow.
And after that, and they said, you can do whatever you want to. It's perfectly fine. If you want to have the party, it's fine. Like it's no big deal kind of thing. And then I thought about it and I thought, well, of course I want to have the presents and the party and all that. But I was struggling with the whole, like, I don't believe, and I really don't want to say in a church that I believe in this God. So my solution to this at 14 years old was that I would just move my lips and not say it.
Oh, sneaky. But how would you actually go about letting people know that you're an atheist? I mean, like, how long can you like pretend?
And at that, and then I actually felt really bad about that whole thing, and kind of felt like I had kind of sold my self, kind of like, yeah, I felt kind of bad after that. And then I decided that, okay, when I'm 18 years old, I'm going to go to the office where I get to write myself out of the church. I'm going to do that myself on my birthday, and that will make up for the fact that I said that I moved my lips and I went through these motions, even though I didn't believe. And my parents knew that I did exactly that.
There's so much haberdashery going on.
Haberdashery, is that a clothing line?
Maybe, it might be. You'd have to look it up. Are you going to call it or not? If you miss it, I'm docking you a point.
I don't know if it's a clothing line or not.
I call it, damn it. I'll call it, damn it.
Out of the church officially. No. In Finland, it wasn't like a big deal to tell that to people, and I thought that was really great. It felt like, okay, so now I am an adult, and now I've done it myself, and for me, it was like an important thing to be honest, at least at 18 years old. which I couldn't be when I was 14 or 15.
I think it's better for you to do it that way. I mean, I don't like how the system's set up where you're religious by default. Did you have to, like, is that how it works? Like when you're born, you're automatically put into the church, like christened into the church, and then
your parents put you. Also, there was this thing where my brother was had complications when he was born, so he was emergency baptized.
Oh wow! Why? Okay,
and I think that's more like if the parents have the belief, or the belief of the baby not having the soul, or that the soul needs to be saved. But I think I really have to talk to my parents again about that, because I don't know what they think of. I kind of always thought idiotically that you get baptized just so you get your name into the church registry.
But it sort of sets you up where you have a disguise, and then you're now like
disguise. Is that closed? Those are closed.
I don't know. Am I disguising myself? Is that a verb? How did I say it? I don't know.
Disguise.
You have like a front, and I don't know if a front's a word, but you are basically putting yourself more pressure on yourself to get out than it did to get in, and you're put in at a point where you did like the intellectual capacity to say, oh, this is where I'm at. This is, like put in as a baby is rough because of that.
Yeah.
And to have to sign your name on a piece of paper, I guess in like some sort of like a public setting, or do I have to actually go through that effort just to get out of religion?
Seems can you imagine if you were, the day you're born, you're registered as a Republican or a Democrat, for example?
Yeah, that's what I
just think that's ridiculous.
Yeah, true point there. Yeah, and then coming out to like family and friends, it's never been an issue. I think everybody kind of knew that I didn't believe, so it wasn't a big thing. I think
it's a really delicate situation.
People are more like, whenever this comes up, they give me it feels like it's like they start explaining why they still are members of the church, like giving reasons as to why it's still okay to be members of the church, even though it's all BS. Like justifying their membership to me.
Sure.
It goes that way in my experience. More here.
Okay.
That was my story.
Very cool.
What would you say was the biggest fallout, like emotionally, from doing it? Was there more stress put on you than there was like on your family members or anything like that?
No, there's no stress at that moment. Oh, and then I could, of course, continue. This is like from the church. This is from the biblical teachings and the church. Then in my early 20s, I kind of got into the whole, but maybe there's something just more that all these scientists haven't figured out yet, and that this kind of like energy thing, and maybe we shouldn't call it God, but there could be something like this fuzzy type spiritual thinking, and that got quite heavy around my 30s, to where I was quite heavy into the philosophies of The Secret. If you've seen the movie, the book, LA, and that, getting away from that was difficult and shocking to myself that I could be an activist. That was really difficult for me to kind of figure out how lost I was. And
did you even know what a relative was at that point in time, or was it just that kind of a philosophy that made sense to you?
No, I thought it kind of like made sense. I was like, well, maybe this is like the groundbreaking, thing that people just haven't detected properly before. Like, I mean, if we create our own reality, man, like all the science like stuff is just going to come up whichever way you think about it.
Can I just throw out something?
This is like, I'm trying to get back to how I was thinking then.
Can I throw out something on top?
Yes.
Can I throw out something on top? I think what's really interesting about Linda's situation was, unlike mine, where I had to learn critical thinking first in order to have a capacity to undo all of like my upbringing, you sort of like found a way there naturally, and I think are now discovering the critical aspects of it now at this part. So I think it's cool that there's different ways of converting out of religion, even some that are diametrically opposed from each other. Like,
and
definitely
like
different paths.
Even though I can be skeptical and critical towards some ideas and beliefs, there are others that I have a harder time of being skeptical and critical towards. And like, I'm not immune to having like poor judgment and by like wanting so badly for something to be true, because it makes life so much easier, which that kind of philosophy was like presenting a solution. So I think, and also, a point that I would like to make now is that the whole critical thinking and skepticism, critical thinking skills is something that I'm learning, and I've started to learn when I kind of realized that my thinking was completely off. Like, it was so off, it was painful. And then I kind of like had to put myself together and go like, well, how do I make sense of this now? And critical thinking was that solution. And that's something that I still work on today, every day. And the more I do SC, the more I realize I'm not as critical as I thought I was, and not as smart as I thought I was. And I need to work on that every day. And I'm really thankful for it.
Very cool.
I'm not that familiar. I'm not an expert or anything. So I'm talking a bit off the cuff here, but you know, people's perception of Scandinavia is it's just so secular.
No, Linda, have one. Linda, let him have one, you monster.
Come on, I'm not even on the board yet.
Yeah, you know you are. Anyway.
Mind have to get a little permission slip from their parents to leave the church. So that's very enlightening.
It is a lot.
Cool.
Yeah, and I think that there can be a lot of like pressure, just like stay in it for the tradition thing or for like that.
Yeah.
A weird contextual issue, because like, how do I put it? Most people still don't know what being an atheist is. So, but most people, even though most people don't really know what being a Christian is, like all the tenets of their holy book, there's a feeling good sensation of what it means to be a Christian, but not so much that kind of, is a layer thing. Oh, good. I'll let you have that. I didn't know what I was saying.
And actually, I have one quick memory just of one quick memory just of
so I was just saying really, disadvantage there, but yeah,
really good friends when I told her, like, because we don't believe in God, but don't call yourself an atheist. It's just a really bad look. Like, you know,
it's like running, or like
that word kind of advice.
I mean, it's like, what is it? It's like if I said I was on a diet, or if I said I was running, or if I said I like carrots, like something innocuous as that. Most people don't care, but it's when you use that A word that makes people start doing the judgment call. So like, it's hard. Where I'm at right now is getting comfortable saying the A word in front of people, and so I think it's still a transition period. Even when you have completely made the transition, there's still areas where you try to get more comfortable in, whether it's the critical thinking aspect or the terminology aspect, maybe even both.
Yeah, I mean, there shouldn't be any pressure for anybody to adopt the label. You know, you need to do it when it suits you. But it's very a beneficial thing to do, because, like you said, it just makes it so much easier for somebody who might not even have considered this, who might be having doubts and might feel completely isolated because of it. If they see that one person who says, "Listen, I doubt this. I don't subscribe to this claim," and it might just make them feel a lot better.
And I guess what we're all trying to do with Street Epistemology is just figure out a reliable way to make sure that we've made or have arrived to the most reasonable conclusion. And that's why it's good to continue.
Is basically a system of segregation. And if anybody doesn't know, if anybody was living under a rock and have never heard of apartheid in South Africa, apartheid ended when I was 9 years old. But in effect, it didn't really end where, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of how I was living. You know, my entire 12 years that I spent in school, I was in a school where it was only white kids. It was not even just only white kids, it was only Afrikaans speaking white kids. So it's literally like 5% of the population in South Africa are Afrikaans speaking white people, but I was only among those people. And the block where I grew up in, you know, and also just Afrikaans people. You'd have one English family, and I think it was a complete shock to everybody when the first black family moved in. So we were very, very isolated in that regard. And part of the Afrikaans culture is it's very, very conservative, and also we've got this strong Protestant base. So, and even there, it's conservative Protestantism. So the church I went to, they actually took us on a little field trip to like a charismatic kind of what do you call it, Baptist church, where people stand up and sing and actually enjoy it when they go to church. And they showed us this and said, look at these guys, they're not serving Jesus in the right way. This is supposed to be fun. So yeah, it was just like that. And I was very, very religious, kind of, saving myself for marriage, that type of thing. And that ended up having a major impact on my life. When I was 18, I met a girl and we started dating. And eventually, after 2 years of dating, we ended up having sex. And for me, that was a very, very big deal coming from the background that I had, because sex, especially in the conservative Afrikaans culture, is kind of like the taboo sin that the worst thing you can kind of do is to have premarital sex. So immediately after, or the day after, I was freaking out. It was just, to me, I did this terrible, terrible thing. And I got this idea that if I don't make this right, I'm probably going to go to hell for it. So at that point, I convinced myself, okay, it's cool, we can still save this. So what I need to do is I need to make sure that this is the girl I marry. So at 19 years old, I decided, okay, cool, you just had sex, so now you're going to marry this girl. So at that point in time, it's a young relationship, it's not something where you can be that serious, and there were already like issues, but stuck it out. And for 6 years we were together after that. And if anybody hears this, and if anybody is a similar situation, don't make the mistake I made. It's really unfair to yourself. It's really unfair to the person who you're in a relationship with. When you have relationships, it should be based on something real, something that means something to you. If you just go on something as stupid as, I don't want to go to hell, or I think I did something wrong, you're going to hurt yourself, and you're going to hurt the person who you're in a relationship with. So the thing that kind of started getting me out, and it's really stupid, but it was when I read the Da Vinci Code. And in the Da Vinci Code, they talk about, the secret history of Jesus, and he actually was married and he had kids. And just that idea already started to get like those gears turning in my head, where I said, wow, that's so cool. There's the idea of that, suddenly women aren't as lowly as I always saw the Bible portray them. And I thought this would be very cool if it was true. And I really the idea resonated with me. So I kind of started tailoring my own brand of Christianity. Stopped, believing in certain aspects of it. Stopped worrying so much about things. Said, oh, don't worry about this creation story. That's just a metaphor for how things happen. And it actually fits very well if you look at the model of the Big Bang and all that. But slowly but surely, I started peeling back the layers almost of what I was believing. And eventually, at that point where the relationship ended, I realized what I did to myself by having that mindset. That was kind of just the last straw. So I said, listen, I don't really, this hasn't been a positive thing in my life. It doesn't really scored me anything. It's actually done me a lot of harm. So I'm going to distance myself from it. And I think it took me a while to really come to terms with being an atheist per se. But like you said, it's kind of this progression where you just need to open your eyes and go through it. Something which I think was really instrumental is, the university type setting, starting your life afterwards, moving to a different town. That's just breaking away from not the culture per se, but just the the group of people around you really allows you to do kind of that introspection where you don't have somebody who's constantly reinforcing the belief. So yeah, I only really in the last 2 years became very interested in atheism. Started watching, atheist videos online, that type of thing. This year, well, when I discovered Anthony's videos and started getting interested in AC, that kind of, I liked it because the idea of getting active was well, I wanted to do something, and that seemed to me like a good way of being an activist, but in a positive way without necessarily, attacking people, that type of stuff. And like that played an instrumental role in me actually being comfortable with using the label atheist. Because what I immediately did is I looked for communities in South Africa that actually do atheists or are atheists, and I found the South African Secular Society, awesome group of people, and I went to one of their meetups. Brianna went with me. It was an awesome experience. Met a guy there named Rick, and he actually said that part that I said, that it's so important to be open about being atheist, because you might make it so much easier for somebody else to then also be honest with themselves and be willing to face this reality. And what I did then is I made my very first openly atheist Facebook post, which it didn't go off badly, but the very next day I got to work.
Could I ask what it said? Could I ask what it said? Like, what was the nature of the post itself?
It was actually more about street epistemology, where I said, I'm going to have these conversations, and I actually posted the blog I wrote for the Street Epistemology website, and that kind of makes it clear,
That was a really nice blog, by the way. I love that.
Thank you.
Your writing is really lovely, stellar.
So one of my colleagues read that, and I actually before that day, I told him, I don't believe in God. He invited me to a prayer group, and I told him, I don't believe in God, but I'll join your prayer group just, kind of to show unity, to support you guys, because the company was going for a difficult time in that time. So he knew I didn't believe in God, but as soon as I used the label atheist, it really bugged him. Like he came to me and said, "Man, Ben, can I take you to lunch? Let's talk about this. I'm very worried about you."
So trying to drag you down? Was he trying to drag you back into the faith?
Not really. It's just I just realized how much baggage that label has. It was to him, to say, I don't believe in God. I don't know if he still thought, but actually Ben knows in his heart that Jesus exists or something like that. But that's when I went for the label, that really bothered him. Not long after that, I spoke to my parents about it. I also, I never tried to hide that I didn't believe in God. And at that point, it's been a couple of years since I've, to myself, decided I don't believe in this. But we kind of had the talk where I just sat them around the table and said to them, listen, guys, I'm an atheist and I am going to get involved in the atheist movement. I'm going to make these videos. These are the reason I decided to start doing this. And their reaction was very good. I can't ask for anything more. It was very emotional. My dad kind of felt that it's weird, but
it is.
But my dad felt, he failed me in a way. He kind of felt that it's his fault. He didn't instill the right amount of faith in me. And I used some advice that good old Matt Delahanty once shared on the Atheist Experience, where I told them, listen, guys, this isn't because of something you did. You brought me up right. This is my own decision. And if your God wants to bring me back into the fold, he'll do it. It's on him. It's not on your shoulders. It's not your job to try and change my mind. You have you have done your part in terms of what you should do. And I really hope that that did comfort him. It seemed to at the time. But what was the only very negative thing that I got out of that conversation is my mom shared with me that she is very afraid of hell. So
same like you. She's in the same position.
Yeah. But living with it for a much longer time.
Yeah, so you can sympathize with that.
Absolutely. It's
and
something.
Also from a parent's perspective, because that means that for her, the fear of you going to hell can be even worse than her own fear of her going to hell.
Yes. So it's something which kind of just reaffirmed to me why it is important to be active, to try and make a difference, because people have this idea that, let people believe what they want. It really, maybe it gives them some comfort, maybe it soothes them in times of difficulty, but religious belief can have negative effects on people. And it's important that we recognize that and are open to helping people who are in positions like that.
I think it's really interesting that I think of the two stories that we gave, we were focused on ourselves so much, but like you see not only from the freedom that you had from leaving your faith, what was left behind and the people who are still in that position. Like you got out of this place of fear and guilt. Well, when you look back, it's your loved ones that are in that same place. And it's hard because do you feel like you could ever get back into their mindset again? Like, could you choose to do that? Or do you feel like it's kind of impossible now until you have a good reason to get there?
I don't think it's possible.
But you want to be able to be helping them from their perspective or from their side.
Absolutely.
But it's one of those things that you're diametrically unable to do because you can't choose what you believe. There's a lot of parallels between this and like when people come out as being gay. I was talking to a friend about that who was gay and was just saying like, hey, I'm part of like this, like light atheist activist movement, and the statistics between kids who like commit suicide or feel anxiety or depressed coincide with those who identify as being homosexual and those that identify with being an atheist. So I think it's good that we let people know about this. Is there any advice that you would give? Maybe we can just go around real quick before we crack open that vault to anyone who's recently come out or been outed.
I had a thought. Also, I just recently yesterday I watched the Talk Heathen show, and there was a caller on the show called Max who also was very, very afraid of hell. And then today I was reading about negativity bias and what is it called? Now I just had my cards here. Optimism bias and negativity bias. And kind of like the negativity bias, as I've understood it, has stuck around in our brains because, like, as cavemen, when we were like outside of a cave and we were like picking berries, and then you can hear something in the bushes, it was much more beneficial for you to just get out of there, to stop picking the berries and just leave. Okay. So the kind of fight and flight response.
No combats.
Part, is very, very strong, and the negativity bias that our brain kind of like would rather. When we remember something negative, it sticks around a lot longer, and it makes it much. The negativity bias makes it hard for us to let go of those really negative memories and ideas, and I think hell kind of like fits into that kind of thing where it's really hard to let it go because it's such a traumatic idea. Although I've understood that when you study things like biases, what I'm trying to say now, I'm not doing a very good job of it. I'm trying to wrap it up now. When you study your brain, how we learn things, how we have this like quick side of the brain that's kind of more primitive that will like think that hell is real and it's such a bad idea. So I'm going to stick to that idea to save myself, kind of like the Pascal's wager, that could be something that our brain is doing that we can override again with our slower brain and with our prefrontal cortex and thinking about it and just being aware of the negativity bias. So for anybody who's scared of hell, my suggestion would be to read up about the negativity bias, also the optimism bias. They're kind of like different sides of the same kind of coin, to learn more about our brains, how we think, and how ideas stick. Because I think when we see the illusion, we can then kind of like override the illusion.
Okay. Oh, Ben, you muted your microphone. Okay. Oh, Ben, you muted your microphone. One last technical issue. There we go. Hey.
Super important. And it's going to be unfair in a way, but what you need to try and keep in mind is that the people you come out to might have a very negative response. And that doesn't necessarily come out of a bad place. It doesn't necessarily mean that they really reject you, but it's literally just the belief that they are brought up in. So you might have to take some abuse. You might have to swallow it. But at the end of the day, you need to try and be the bigger person, see where it's coming from, and know that that person, even though it might not seem at it at the time, when you do come out and they do tell you terrible things and they do tell you you might be going to hell or something like that, that person still loves you and that person is going to want to mend those bridges. So try and limit the damage as much as you can, but keep the communication channels open as well.
And I would say I respect like that first Black family that you were talking about that moved into the neighborhood that you're discussing, because there's parallels with that as well. You kind of just want to be present and demonstrate just through your own upstanding nature what a person that is called you looks like. So like if someone calls me an atheist and I'm behaving well, I'm having friends and I can tell jokes and I can relate with people on various levels and I exercise good communication skills and use SC to enhance those abilities, that defeats the idea of what an atheist was in their head. And I think it's valuable to have that. So don't try to keep it separate and do it in a safe place. If you can't do it at all, that's understandable. But if you can make it not a big deal by just demonstrating, not by like, confronting people and telling them, hey, I'm an atheist, deal with it. But like just saying, hey, this is where I'm at, and just continue living the good life that you are right now. It has a great billboard. It has a great advertisement, a great impact. Linda, what do you think?
Yeah, I think living the good, loving atheist life is it's a good idea.
Cool.
Beautiful.
All right. You guys think we're good to wrap up?
Yeah.
Yay!
Okay. My cat's in the bedroom going like, where are you? All right. Let me do one last thing. All right, guys, ready? Here we go.
Yes.
Ooh, yeah, come on. Where is it? All right. We're opening up the vault. Looks like we're good. Did it make a sound?
I didn't hear a sound.
Where is it? Oh.
From the top.
We'll do this real quick. Linda got hats, 1 point. Then I called out Label. Label was a design company, or like Label Clothes. Then Linda called Looming, but she didn't. She said Looming, but she didn't call it. So
I didn't know it was anything to do with clothes, so I'm not taking that point.
You did okay. That's fair. And then
but you can get the point for calling it, I reckon.
Okay. I called Regalia when you were talking about the parties, and then White Dress. I took that from you, but then you caught me on Stinker with Skirt, and that left the current score with Linda 3, Ty 1, Ben 0. Then we started going to Overdrive. Ben called me on Haberdashery. Linda called me on Disguise, and then I put out Delicate Situation. Delicates Situation. So Delicates. That's a point. Calling it. Then I also threw out. Can I throw something out on top of Linda? Score Linda 5. Ben 4 or Ben 3, Ty 4. This is very, very close. Then we went to Ben's story. And at that point, I said, hey, is your friend kind of dragging you back or dragging you down or driving you back to his religion? Drag is a kind of close. Then Ben called out baggage. But you know what? I don't know. But he called out Taylor. I didn't call baggage, though. Ben, you didn't call baggage. But I think you said you didn't call it. I'm sorry. We're going to stick to the points. You did call out Taylor, though. I'll give you Taylor. Ben with 1 point. Ty then did one last Hail Mary throw with no combats. Combats are kind of close that Mills wear. I said it to Linda, and I think that left the final score Linda 5,
Meow.
Ty 6, Ben 4.
Ooh.
Whoa, that was a
All the
bloodbath.
way down.
That was a bloodbath. At the last second, I was able to get that one last point. So congratulations
Well
to
done.
everybody on that one. That was incredible. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. That gives Happy Humans 1 point. Woohoo! Leaves Casual Canines with 1 point. Casual Canines. Oh. And then Nordic Nachos with 1 point now.
Meow.
Video that I went to Knoxville, Tennessee to give. I keep saying Knoxville, Kentucky. My geography skills are terrible. But if you have a chance to check it out, I'll put a link in the comic books in this video of that talk. And I just basically give an outline of how I see SC. There's a lot of good video, a lot of good feedback, and eventually I'm going to post the question and answer sessions. Please check that out when you have a chance. Who's taking the final word? Oh, or Linda, you get next choice. Are you taking the final word? Or
I'm taking the final word.
Then time to shamelessly plug yourself, baby.
I'm not going to shamelessly plug myself. I'm going to shamelessly plug somebody else.
All
So there's a new street epistemologist who I think really needs some more love. Gannon from Street Socratics. Google Street Socratics. He's on Twitter, he's on YouTube, and he's making some really good content. This week, he actually had a video where he spoke to a professor of philosophy, which is just hilarious. So, and she was very into it. So it was a nice plot twist. So check out Gannon's channel. It's definitely worthwhile.
Very cool.
I will do that.
That's a charitable, shameless plug. You got to say, and check them out. Shamelessly. Anyway, we'll leave it up to final word before we break it out.
My final word is stay curious. That was shameless. Study up on your biases, the brain, human psychology, why we do what we do.
Very, very cool. And so our final closing outro will be I am both rubber and glue, and we'll see you next time on the League of SC Reviewers. Once again, I'm both rubber and glue. On 3, 2, 1.